What's up, otakus? It's your tour guide here. It's Saturday night. Feeling's right. Doing another grade along, and gonna unbox a comic I got today in the mail. So it's gonna be fun. I'm having a good time with these. So let me just get out the books that we're gonna grade tonight. Sorry for not having this ready in advance. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do 5 of those. I'm also going to pull 5 from my filing cabinet. Just do. We'll do some. We'll do some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do some Brian Bolland, some artist stuff. Okay. So we got the grading books prepped. Just gonna put the grading books over here. We'll grade those when we get to them. And we're gonna unbox this. Before we get to this, I wanted to talk about Walt Simonson. Really one of the, one of the notable creators at Marvel during my comic book collecting era. And I didn't read a lot of the other Marvel titles. I really only focused on like Spider-Man, mostly X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, X-Men Volume 2, Classic X-Men. I was reading Wolverine. And then, when Marvel kind of opened up, introduced Cable and all that, I was reading New Mutants, X-Force, and then I got into all the X titles that came out later. But I would say, through X Factor, although Walt Simonson wasn't writing X Factor, his wife, Louise Simonson, was. She was the writer, and Walt was the artist on X Factor. So I do want to just recognize his artwork here, because while Walt Simonson is not one of my top 10 artists, he's definitely among I would say my top artists, outside of the top 10 list. He's definitely among my top artists. And just to give you kind of a sample of like his work, we got X Factor. Hang on, let me make this big here for a minute. There we go. We got X Factor 25, Incredible Apocalypse cover. Got this Goblin Queen cover here. I mean, just his signature style is something to behold. Look at that. Just amazing. And then, of course, I would say what he's really known for is his legendary run on Thor. And I'm using legendary because he pretty much carried the book. He carried the Thor book. Let me get Let me get the big book out here. Hang on just a minute. Yeah, I mean, he gets things started with a bang here with Thor 37. And yeah, really iconic, stylistic uh, artwork. Very signature style, his artwork is. And, this is I'd say like a mid-grade copy. But this is something I wanted. I really didn't care about the condition. I just wanted it because it's Walt's, again, premiere on the Thor issue. And he would work on this from 337 to 383. Just writing and penciling. I mean, he didn't pencil every issue, but for the most part, he did the majority of the artwork and all of the writing, again, from this issue to 383, um, which is, I mean, that's almost 50 issues, right? 50 issues. So it's a very long run. Um, and a lot of people who read Thor, I'm now, again, I'm not one of those people, but a lot of people who like Thor, read Thor, especially his run on Thor. Um, he set a lot of precedents for the character in the story. So, yeah, again, just a legendary figure, and you know, Thor was his real, I'd say, yeah. Look at this artwork. I mean, look at his Thor is just incredible. You know, just love Walt Simonson's artwork, and um, again, I will probably at some point get into reading his Thor. My introduction to his writing was um, this sort of mini series. I think it was a 3 issue, maybe it's a 2 or 3 issue mini series. It was Havoc and Wolverine. Um, and it was, he wrote it. I forget who the artist was, but it was like a very like Bill Sienkiewicz like style of art. And I just remember getting that. First of all, the artwork in that was incredible, but the story was like really riveting, and it was right around the height of the Cold War, all the fears about nuclear annihilation, and this was really examining sort of uh, that fear, um, and yeah, it was just a great. It was a well told story. Very, I would imagine it would have held up over time. But I'm curious because I read that when it came out was probably like ninth grade, 10th grade, or something like that when it came out, and I read it. One of the few trade paperbacks that I kind of had in my collection. Um, but yeah, that was I think the artwork was in it was you know really riveting. It definitely was kind of more adult oriented than kind of your typical comic book. Um, Sort of a lot, sort of violence and kind of adult themes in that trade paperback. But yeah, it was a very riveting story. And the reason I'm bringing up Walt Simonson today is because this book that we purchased online, and it was just one of those things like it was for sale. And I think I mentioned it a long time ago or in a previous video that this was a book that caught our eye. We made an offer, and the guy didn't accept the offer, or he didn't get around to doing it. Um, and so I just forgot about it. And then later, he had sent an offer, sort of a counter offer, like weeks later, maybe a week or two later, um, which I did not accept because um, I was preparing for Comic Con, or the Canadian, my trip to Canada. So I didn't want to spend anything on stuff that I didn't really feel like was absolutely necessary. And so we held off on it. I was just hoping, like, when we get back from Canada and we have some budget left, I'll pick this book up. And yeah, and so I came back, and then I would say, maybe last month or so, I put an offer for it, and the guy just ignored it. So I thought, oh, okay, so this guy doesn't even want to, he doesn't even want to, like, deal with me anymore. We've gone through too many back and forths, and he's just not gonna sell me the book. So I thought, it is what it is, and I just thought maybe I missed an opportunity there. But then the guy messages me and said, "Oh, sorry, I was kind of like out of the country. He was on a trip or something, and he didn't get to see the message or the offer that I sent, respond to the offer that I sent until he got back. And so he's like, if you send the offer again, I will accept." And I sent him the offer again, and now the book is here. So what I'm going to do is before I show off the book, I'm going to transfer it to its eventual home, which is, I've made a little slab for it. And so we're just going to put it in there, and then, oh, it's a beautiful book. All right, we'll put it in there, and then we'll show it off. And I just want to make sure the condition is, yeah, for all intents and purposes, the condition is what was expected. And just going to transfer it here. And then I'll show it off. So just bear with me for a little bit. And we will get to see what the book is. It's a beautiful book. And I'm just really glad I got it now. Okay, so we slide that in there and close it up. And we'll put it in its new slab here. As I'm showing it off. So what we got was Thor 377. Oh, sorry, it's 373. Thor 373. It's first off, it's iconic artwork by Walt Simonson. And this is, as you know, I kind of was collecting the 25th anniversary covers, because this was going on as I was in my collecting era. I remember when all these things came out, and I was just like, man, I want to collect them all, and didn't really have an opportunity to pick a lot of them up. But when I got back into collecting, I was kind of like going after these issues. And I'd say I have a good, 20 some of them. And I guess we'll go over that at some point. Just kind of show them off. I've got all the first off, I have all the titles that I was reading, and then one of the things I did not have in my collection was this Thor issue, and of course, I'm trying to pick up the newsstands when I can. But this, on certain ones like Black Spidey and on Thor, like you want that Thor hammer. That's kind of cooler than the newsstand, but we still do want the newsstands if we can. But in this instance, it's a direct. But really, the reason we got this book was because it's signed by Walt Simonson, the signature book, and we got this for. So the offer we put in was for I think $9. We got this book for a $9 offer, but on Mercari, the guy had it at $7.99, so $8 for shipping, plus there was a $2 fee. So all in all, this ended up being just a little over $20 to have shipped and everything here, which is still I mean, it's a near mint book, you know. It's just a couple. I guess we'll start by grading this one. This will be our first book of the grade along. But yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have a Walt Simonson signature book, it's got to be a Thor book. And what better? I mean, what better um, book to have his signature on than this one? You know, Thor just looks, he looks battle worn there with the Viking beard, just looking badass. Yeah, and like again, a great price. I figure this is just like if you're gonna have a signature book, this is one you would be good representative copy to have it on. Obviously, there's keys in the Thor run that anyway you'd want it on a Thor run book. Whether it's like first uh, first key, first appearances. Oh, cool. So this guy put all the details on it. Signed Walter Simonson. I'm gonna put the sticker on here. X Factor tie-in. That's really cool. Put it on the back here. So this was signed by Walt Simonson in 2012 at Heroes Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. That is cool. Thanks. I'm gonna give this guy uh, real good review and rating. Because I mean, he did me a solid by selling me this book for such a good deal. Again, $20 for this Walt Simonson signature book. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of signed copies of this out there, and it's one is now in my possession. Yeah, that's just really cool. And Walt Simonson had had one of these like strange type signatures where it's more of a design than a signature, right? Just hard to, it's hard to miss whose signature that is if you know what it looks like. That is cool. All right, so let's take a look. Let's grade this one. Thor 373 is our first book that we're gonna do on the grade along here. And again, everything, there's no creasing. Corners are very sharp. I'll just give you a look. Kind of getting close at the top of the book so you can see. Then move to the bottom of the book so you can see. Trying to get rid of this glare. I'm sorry, this is not my normal setup. And as you know, my computer's on the fritz. I'm using my laptop to broadcast, which actually, in terms of the camera quality, it's actually decent. Mm, Should have been broadcasting from my laptop from the get go, but there's a little bit of glare and all that stuff there. So as you can see, sharp corners. The back is, it's clean, sharp as well. So really, the issues on the book are going to be along the spine. Again, this guy sounds like he was a collector and he's just selling the books for whatever reasons. Um, he obviously went and got it signed, Heroes Con, so he's one of us. Um, and if you look at the spine here, just not a lot of issues. Got a couple like a spine tick there. Yeah, just like maybe one or two really minute like color breaks, but it's a very clean spine for the most part. So yeah, I'll go 9.4 on this. It's I put a 9.4. It's like a 9.2, 9.4 ish copy. Doesn't need to be pressed. It just looks fabulous. So boom, this instantly becomes like one of my favorite items in the collection. That's really cool. Okay, first book. All right, so we're gonna start grading now, and I have a few issues from the filing cabinet that we're gonna. I'm reluctant to pull these out, and but we're gonna just do. Yeah, I'm reluctant to pull these out and grade them. I kind of. I'm kind of debating right now what I should do. Yeah, I'm just gonna assume the backs are okay. Okay, if that's okay with you guys, I'm gonna assume the backs are okay, and just do just the front cover. I know that's not accurate. Obviously, the back's gonna reveal a lot of it, but I'm gonna assume that the kind of issues I see on the front are gonna be on the back in terms of the spine, and I'm just going to assume there's no creasing or tearing or any kind of issues on the back. I'm just going to assume that. Now, obviously, if I ever do a more detailed grading and find out, oh, okay, the back had lots of issues, we'll adjust. But for now, I really don't want to take these out and like do a full like page count and front and back type grading type scenario. Um, Hopefully, at some point, we'll get these into like clear backing boards, and um, which will help us do some of the grading on that. But yeah, most of these here that I've with the backing boards that I have from my filing cabinet, just picked out the first five um, that were sitting there. Um, these are the majority of these are needing a press, and they're not high grade. In fact, this one has a lot of issues, um, but still one of my favorites. Okay, so we'll get into it. First book we're gonna show off is Usagi Yojimbo, Rabbit Bodyguard. Um, and this is the death issue, number 4, the death issue. Um, I'm just gonna grade it. It's a 8.5, and I'll go over the reasons uh, why I think it's an 8.5. Just again based off the front cover, and mind you, it's in a. But you can see not a lot of color break here, but there's like a spine tick there. There's another big spine tick right here. And just a couple minor ones, just all up and down. I'll get close in here. You can kind of see there's like a bend, like a spine tick there. Not doesn't really break color, so with a really you know thorough press along those spine ticks, and they're pressed. You can press them out. And again, there's just some little bends here at the top, but for the most part, it's like corners are sharp, no creasing. I mean, it's a nice book. So, I mean, I'd put this at an 8.5, just based on, well, I'd go 9.0 on this one, actually. I really think it's a really clean looking book. Try to give you this angle here so you can kind of better see it. I know it's hard to see through the bag, but yeah, it's got some pretty, again, two sort of three major spine ticks, but they don't really break color, no creasing of any kind. Yeah, I'd give this a 9.0 because those issues can be pressed out for sure. You probably have a little residual color break, but even with that, this would press out real clean and just have a couple minor breaks up there, still be like close to a near mint book. So yeah, this needs a press, but we're gonna give it a 9.0 in terms of its grade. All right. Well, we can again. We're not grading. We're not taking the books out of the bags and boards to try and grade the back. Now, this one I think I've graded. I'm trying to remember if I graded this or not, but this one I will take out because it's not necessarily, it's kind of like fringe low grade. Um, that's Judge Dredd number 2. I just really like this. What looks to be like an American and Russian Judge Dredd with the Empire there. Okay, so I got this book out of the 33-cent bin. Got it for 33 cents. It's a stiff, well, actually, it's kind of supple still, but it's got some humidity exposure from weather. It's has mold staining from molding or mildew, I should say. You can see it right there, as well as right there. Um, Nothing in terms of creasing, but a lot of bends. Kind of see it in the light there. Maybe you can't. Let's see if I can get the. Yeah, there we go. You can see a lot of little bends in the book. So can definitely benefit from a clean and press. I really think we can get a lot of that staining off. Um, well, no, it's pretty deep in there. It seeps through the book, I'm sure. Yeah, kind of stains through the first page of the book there. You can see right up around here there's staining as well. There's just Brian Ball and goodness, though, man. Look at these interiors. Brian Bolland, for the majority of his career, is just a cover artist. But every now and then he'll, he'll do a book like The Killing Joke, or some of this early Judge Dredd stuff, and just like, man, he's just as good as they come. And again, so we got staining on the back and some actual, yeah, staining that kind of eats into the surface of the book. I can kind of show in the light. You can see that, like, there's like a stain there. It's kind of, so it's got cover damage there. That's damage. Nothing you can do about cleaning or doing anything there. And again, it has this like rippling kind of through the book. It's not stiff, but it's there's a rippling in it from weather exposure or the temperature exposure. So it's a book that's aged and kind of dealt with some molding and mildew issues. But all in all, again, 33 cents. It's still, I think, in great shape. So I would put this grade because, again, that the stains, the mold stains, the water stains, or I should say the humidity stains, and then the back of the book where it's the surface got damaged. All those are pretty significant uh, type issues. But and then there's this sort of miswrap there. It's another issue. Um, but for the most part, the corners are sharp. There's no creasing. The book is still supple. So I mean, there's potential to make this improve it in a lot of ways. But even if you, I think if we're to improve it, like, press it out, get a really nice, flat, kind of glossy looking, um, and then, maybe address some of the staining here by doing some cleaning techniques to get the staining out. I think you could really get this above mid grade, somewhere in like the 6.0 if you just really took care of it and addressed all the weather worn issues. But as is, I would put this at like a 3.0. Put it at a 3.0. It's just, and staining is really what's bringing that grade down significantly. So we have this as, well, yeah, 3.0. Again, there's nothing in terms of creasing or like color breaking issues on the book. It's just there's a rippling, there's all this staining, and really, I think if we were to press it and do everything we can to make it a little bit more presentable, I think it has the potential to get above mid grade, just barely above mid grade. But again, there's damage on the back cover, the little stains, and um, the water damage. Or I should say, it's like, yeah, it's residual like mold damage, essentially, what is what it is. Um, but again, 33 cents for a low grade. I'm going to call it 3.0 Judge Dredd number 2. I don't mind. I do not mind. All right. Moving right along. We got some more ball and goodness here. This one we picked up for, I believe we picked it up for $1. It was priced as $1 at half price books, and it's a near mint book. The only issue here is a pressable issue, and I'll get up close so you can see it. Um, I can feel there's a deep color spine tick right there. You can probably see it too, but again, it doesn't break color. It's just you can feel it though. Got a really hinged bed. So again, that's something that can be pressed out at some point down the road. And this would be just really clean. Um, yeah, just a really clean, near minty copy. And I just love this Ballin cover. Ballin Batman is it's a work of art. Everything by Ballin is a work of art, but when he does iconic characters like Wonder Woman and Batman, you just gotta love that. All right, so we're gonna make this a 9-4. Batman 447 by black and white cover there by Brian Bolland. Where my pen go? I just had it. Doo, 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 doo. I just had the pen. Dun, 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 dun. I guess I lost my pen. Did I drop it on the floor? What's going on here? All right, I'm having all kinds of issues. I'm just gonna grab. I don't have another pen. I'm gonna get a pen here real quick. There we go. I'll use a pencil. All right, so I'm going Batman. What is it? 447. We'll guess we're saying a 9-4. Hey, what's up, Miss O? You're always losing pens. Yes, I'm always. I've got a gajillion pens lying around everywhere when I don't need one, and then when you need one, they're never in where they're supposed to be. It's just hiding under like this the books essentially. All right, so got my pen back. We're going 9-4 on the Batman. All right, this one I have 2 copies. So we're gonna grade the 2 copies. Um, I'm gonna grade the back copy based on the back cover, and then I'm gonna grade the front copy on based on the front cover. So again, there are just 2 books in this bag and board. I have one of the books. Usually, I put the worst condition one on the back, and the better condition one on the front, unless it's a newsstand. So if it's a newsstand, I tend to put the direct edition on the back and the uh, newsstand edition on the front. And in that instance, where it's a newsstand on the front, oftentimes the newsstand will be the worst cover. So in this instance, I'm pretty much anticipating this is probably the worst cover because it's the newsstand. Um, Sometimes it can be the other way around. The direct edition might be worse, but generally, when the newsstand's in front, it's generally worse off than the direct. So let's start with the back cover. Again, the back cover here is going to be a direct-ish edition, and I think I picked up both of these for 50 cents from Mill Geek, and I love this cover. I mean, if you'd ask me which cover I like better, this one or this one, that's tough. It's tough. They're both great, but I might give it to this one just because it's more dynamic in terms of action and sort of the artwork. That one's sort of just a newspaper type. It's like a portrait type thing. This is more like what you want to see on a cover. Thank you. Yeah, these are both gorgeous. All right, so we're gonna do the back one first, and no creasing, corners are sharp, a little bit of fading on the ink right there. I don't know if you can see it. There's some fading along the edge of that book right there. Just not very noticeable. The spine on this one is actually, or actually, I'm not looking at the spine, I'm looking at the edge. The spine on this one is rather clean. There's just a couple stress lines. Oh, first of all, it's a dark cover, so anything really with of issue would just pop out. So this is a pretty clean copy. But as I said, there's some stress along the staple that might not even be. Um, that might not even count because it's just kind of like a production type issue. But yeah, we've got some spine ticks. You can see them right there. Couple. But yeah, overall, just very, very, very subtle in terms of that. So, assuming that back is emblematic of what would be on the front, I would go. I'd go 9.0 on this one. Batman 445. Batman 445. We're gonna go 9.0. All right. So, and that is the direct edition. And we're gonna go again newsstand 445. This one has been loved and read, but still pretty good. The corners are sharp, no creasing or anything on the front. But the newsstand edition has several color breaking spine, kind of a blunted corner there as well. Kind of a blunted corner there as well. So this newsstand, solid 8.5, I'd say, given those issues. Or sort of another major kind of spine tick right there. Kind of that's pretty major. It goes just right down there. Imagine on this black. Yeah, let's take it out. um, I just want to, if we're going to give it an 8.5, let's just at least take a look at what the back looks like because it's this dark cover. So unlike that previous one I showed you, yeah, it's got a lot of deep uh, color breaks there. And do we have a crease here? What is that? We'll get some bends, kind of a crease that could be pressed out. That right there, that's like just like like somebody held that and like just stress along that, but it's not a crease. So yeah, I mean, given the back here, I'd drop it down a little notch. Obviously, with the press, I think we could get it. It would be an 8.5 with a press, but without a press, with all those little stress lines and stuff on the back, we're gonna go 7.5 on this one. But uh, asterisk needs a press. Okay, that's that. Giving you more Bolland uh, goodness here on one of my favorite Batman covers by Bolland. I should say is one of my favorite Batman covers on a non-Batman book. It's a Batman book in the sense that it's Robin, but it's not Batman. It's Robin. Robin #1. This is the newsstand edition. Love this cover. Eiffel Tower in the background. Got the ball and Batman there. Arms crossed. Robin looking pretty menacing as well. This one is I would say this one's going to be in the 8.5 range. Yeah, well, no, one, two, three, very minor spine ticks. We got a little corner crease, just a very minute corner crease right there. So yeah, this one's probably we're gonna say 8.0. We're gonna say 8.0 on this one. Little corner creases. That's gonna just drop it another notch. I didn't. When did that? Now this one I got for a quarter, so I can't complain. I got it for a quarter from Jeff's way back in the day. Well, I shouldn't say way back. When I kind of initially got started in collecting again. The poster on this is intact. It's a Neil Adams poster as well of Robin. So I mean, this is a must own for collectors because it's got a Neil Adams Robin poster. It's got this incredible ballin artwork, and it's Chuck Dixon goodness. You know, legendary writer, Batman writer, who we lost recently. I think it was last year. Um, but yeah, um, we're blessed to have his contributions to the Batman stories in the 90s. I should say late 80s, 90s. All right, so Robin number one, 8.0. Newsstand Robin number one. Love that artwork. Okay. Yesterday we had kind of gone through sort of Jim Lee's uh, work on his run on Uncanny X-Men. We kind of were toward the end of his Uncanny X-Men run. There are only two books kind of left in that run, and they're not really technically his books. They're his covers. 280, I think, you start to see Wills Portacio take over artwork on the interiors of the books, and Jim Lee just happens to do the covers on these two books. 280 and then 286. Got newsstand editions here. So let's start with the 280. Back's really clean. Spine is pretty clean on this one. Corners are sharp, although there's a little bit of an issue, like the interior, something sticking out from the interior page. Staples, they look solid. Yeah, I mean, everything about this book is looking minty. Corners are sharp, again, no issues, visible issues. If anything's going to be wrong, it's going to be on that spine. And like I said, pretty clean on the front. You might have a non-color issue type stuff on the back. Not seeing any. Again, I'm not seeing any color breaks. I'm not seeing any spine ticks. Really clean spine. For a newsstand edition, this book looks great. Yeah, Batman. I think the key to doing good Batman artwork is, you know, giving the cape a life of its own, and having the cape kind of communicate what's happening in that panel, right? What because it can be very dynamic, uh, and I think if you look at people who do just great cape work in comic books, Todd McFarlane, like his, um, I think he has a Batman cover, the one where it's like the cape's kind of protruding out, um, like he's like Dracula or something, and that cover is just incredible. I mean, it kind of looks like a bat in terms of the wing structure of a bat. So um, yeah, it definitely and the people who can anybody who's working on Batman, you have to utilize that cape. You have to utilize it, make it sort of an extension of like his anatomy, right? So absolutely agree with you, Miss So. Cape work is very key. All right, so yeah, this is a very sharp looking book. Gonna give it a 9.4. Uncanny 280. 9.4. All right, the next book. I'm just gonna put this is my pen pad book, so I don't lose the pen. This is 286. Beautiful Jim Lee cover here of Archangel. Um, we get introduced to Archangel by none other than the great Walt Simonson. The artwork he does introduces us to Apocalypse, or sorry, on the X Factor run, introduces us to Apocalypse, the Four Horsemen, and this uh, great reimagining of Will Worthington. And I mean, that's this character was just like, like if you're reading X Factor back in the day, when, especially on this period of the run, where you know Angel Angel's dead, and there's a big loss for the team, right? One of the original X-Men, and then they bring him back in this fashion as like one of Apocalypse's like uh, you know warriors, or and what's the word? This is one of his like foot soldiers, with the blades coming out of his wings and all that. It was just like, oh, that was just such a badass comic book moment. But yeah, you get kind of more of that action here on this cover. Jim Lee obviously stating the case he should have uh, drawn Archangel and introduced him to comic books, but just a fantastic cover there. So, what is the grade of this book? Again, corners are sharp. Um, but the spine has some issues. Let's look at the back and count the spine ticks with me there. There we go. You can see it's got a series of color breaks there. Oh man, just the glare is bugging me here. There we go. See all the little color breaks there. I mean, nothing crazy. It's kind of what you see on the front too. Just a series of color breaks just along that dark spine. You've got some staple, a little bit of staple, stress lines there. This one looks okay. That one kind of just stressed at the staples there. Yeah, 8.5. say it's a solid 8.5 here. Uncanny 286, 8.5. Now this could definitely, I think, no, it wouldn't benefit from impress. Yeah, I think this is as good as it's gonna get. Just too much color break on this one, but it's a condition of the book. I mean, there aren't really many issues outside of those little minor color breaks. Okay, moving on to the next book. We got three more Jim Lee just bangers. In fact, we're going to end, well, not end, but we're going to have one of the books be a book I think is qualifies as his best cover of all time. Is so saying, I'm so bad at grading covers. I'd give everything a much higher number. Um, it is. You bring up a great point. I think. I think I tend to inflate the numbers as well. Maybe, and this is the thing. It's such a subjective thing. Like what you see as a flaw, I tend to like not give it too much. Like on a grading scale, you might knock it down a couple points or whatever. But then there are other people who like would see a flaw like that and just be like, no, it's going down several notches. And yeah, I think I do because they're my books, right? I don't want to like be too um, critical of on the grading. I try to be objective, but I think it's hard to separate yourself from that objectivity when they're your books, right? Like you want to give every little benefit of the doubt. Oh yeah, those spine ticks are just very minor, whereas someone else might be like, oh, there's too many of them, or whatever. But um, exactly, like you kind of want to, yeah, supportive of your books. So it's hard to be objective when they're your children, they're your babies. All right, so this is a great example where we can't be objective. We have to be somewhat. I'm sorry, we can't be subjective. We have to be somewhat objective on the issues with the book. Um, I'll start by saying, at the surface level, when you look at this book, it's going to look near mint. It's going to look near mint. Sharp corners, very clean spine, um, back pretty much the same. Now, this is, I have two copies of this, and this is the more problematic of the two copies. Namely because we've got um, like a finger kind of like pull, and it's not really a rip, but it cut. It's just pulled to the point where it is kind of like a micro tear, but it breaks color along that top edge. You see that? It's just a finger like pull, and you kind of try to put it back, but it broke color, and it's an issue. And then we have sort of the same thing um, here, kind of like a stress line. It's on this like trademark symbol on the X-Men, so it looks like a spider web, but it's actually like color break there as well on the top of that page. So yeah, just some top edge issues. Those are pretty major. So, given that, I'd put this at a 7.5. Yeah, given that everything else is just really clean. I mean, there's a little bit of a uh, kind of a stress line there, but it doesn't break color. Yeah, it doesn't break color. It could definitely improve with the press. You're looking right there. See that stress line there along the yellow? Be pressed out though. But yeah, I mean, this is got Scott Williams, Will Portacio, Jim Lee on this cover. Scott, Wills, Jim. I don't know who this guy's supposed to be with the camera. I have no clue who that guy is. But this is the Marvel. Jim implying uh, he's just chained to he's Marvel's workhorse. He just has a box of comics here that he's reading in his, I guess, during his breaks from drawing and all that. And then, all this hard work and repression, he fantasizes and dreams up sexy Psylocke. So this is like first cover appearance of Jim Lee on his own cover, first and only cover appearance of Jim Lee by himself. So it's a must-have for a Jim Lee collector. I have again 2 copies of this. The other thing is like just yeah, you get this great, Psylocke, Marvel Age, X-Men, Special X-Men preview issue, right? Um, this is just a classic Marvel Age issue that you definitely want in your collection. So again, we're giving this Marvel Age a 7.5 because of the top edge issues. Everything else is pretty decent on this book. All right, got one more or 2 more books, and then we're gonna get to grading 2 more slabs. Oh man, we got some special slabs for you today. Incredible stuff to share, grade with you. All right, so we got there's uh, Jim Lee does I think 3 or 4 covers on Wolverine. Um, yeah, I should be grading the interiors. You're absolutely right, because the quality of the interior pages. Um, you also want to make sure there's no tearing or there's nothing cut out or missing in the book. Um, so we're making a huge assumption when we just do the front and back cover grading. We're making an assumption that the interiors are, you know, they're going to be good. That you've got um, white to off-white pages in that area, and nothing's missing, and everything's clean for the most part, right? The staples are tight. There's no issues. We're just making that assumption because, yeah, you're right. Absolutely, you should count the pages and do all that. I think on the older books, especially, it's important. But most of these are modern books, and I think they're taken care of for the most part. You can kind of make the assumption that they're intact, the interiors, that they're not going to have the issues that you think they're going to have. So I do grade the interiors normally when we have time and all that, but I'm just kind of motoring through. And so, yeah, look, that's a great point. And I did preface my grade along. Yeah, I used to do the page counting and all the interior grading stuff. And I have several older books where, the Marvel stamps cut out and things of that nature. But I'm pretty confident with these Jim Lee books that you're not having those issues. And again, I'm making a huge assumption by saying, like, yeah, we're assuming the interiors are good. So just really basing the grades on the condition of the front and back. Okay. Um, so yeah, I was talking about Jim Lee's. He does 3 covers on Wolverine and 3 or 4 covers, I think. Yeah, 3 or 4 covers. Four, maybe 4 covers. I think we've picked them all up now. We have 3 of the covers. I don't think that's all I think he does. He only does 4 covers. It's 25, 26, and 27, if I'm not mistaken. But I very well may be. But anyway, this one here, yeah, I mean, this is just from initial observation. It's going to be an 8.5, and all the issue is here along the spine. You're going to see a lot of. I'm just going to peer over here. See a lot of stress lines there along the spine. Okay. Let me point a couple out to you. They're not that noticeable, but they're there. Actually, why don't I show the back? The back was probably better. It's not that it's not crazy, but you can see right along here, a couple of stress lines. It's not that crazy though. And some of these look like stress lines, but they're actually the artwork there, like, so I think we're looking at really just sort of one, two, maybe 3 really negligible spine ticks, and they're hard to point out because they're hard to see. Kind of look in the light. Right? There's like 1 and 2 spine ticks right there, if you can see them. They're very minute. Um, yeah, this actually looks a lot better. Now that I'm kind of looking at close and from side angles here, I think this is like a 9.2, 9 or 9.2 copy. We'll say 9.0. 9.0 copy. Yeah, and just not Jim Lee's best work, but it is a Jim Lee cover there. Pretty cool. Like the wolves and everything there. It's Wolverine, not wolves. Oh, are those Wolverines? Excuse me, those are Wolverines. Drew a bunch of Wolverines. They look like wolves, though. Um, all right, and then again, this book I think qualifies as Jim Lee's best cover of all time. Um, it qualifies. I'm not saying that it is, but in my opinion, it's a pretty strong argument of his best cover work. And again, I'm partial to Jim Lee's Superman. I'm partial to Jim Lee's Batman. Even with that said, I think this one's hard. hard to beat. It's hard to top. And that is Wolverine 27. We're gonna give this a 9.0 as well. No, we'll get it an 8.5. Back is kind of looking janky. All right, so I guess we'll start there on the back. You can uh, see a series of color breaks and stress lines. There, 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 there. Um, Nothing crazy though. Yeah, nothing crazy. Sometimes I think I'm seeing things, but you can see it here for sure. You can see stress line here, stress line here. So here. Um, Staples are solid. This is a really clean book. I'm going to give it a 9.0. I'm going to give it a 9.0. I'm going to give it a 9.2. I think it really is like cleaner than I first thought. Again, this book hasn't been pressed or anything, so give it a 9.2. Right, and so this book, I think, qualifies as Jim Lee's best cover art, and even though Jim's been at DC and the volume of DC work uh, far outweighs his work at Marvel. I think if you're gonna, so a, I have a list of books that I think are his legacy books. Like when you build a portfolio of this is what Jim Lee did in comic books, you build artwork in that portfolio. Um, I have a bunch of books that kind of qualify as like these are his top works and or covers, um, and a lot of it is on the DC side. A lot of it, with my personal preference, a lot of it is his work on Superman books as well. Superman, Wonder Woman, the Trinity type works. Um, but even with all that said, I just think if you're gonna put like a cover on that book, if you're gonna sell that book of artwork and all that, and just like this is who Jim Lee was, and you're gonna put a cover on that book, I think this has to be the cover, right? That has to be the cover right there, because that with the snarl and everything, that is just like it's like perfection almost. The color, the lines here, oh, it's just, I mean, it's like gives you goosebumps looking at that. So yeah, um, absolutely. I've got this in a very very high grade, but better condition in a newsstand, which we're always like wanting to grade and just kind of get it to see if it was a 9.8. I think it has 9.8 potential for sure, but I didn't go through with it because I'm kind of done with CGC, to be honest. I just don't see the value in it. Like you're giving them like $40 to just encase it. So okay, that slab, the plastic casing of that, Like that has to have a value, right? In terms of plastic, like labor, um, the value of the having it in that sort of protective, because it is protective. I will say the slabs are protected, but then at the same time, the slabs themselves have to be protected, right? Like you, if those crack or if those, you know, that is also something you don't unsightly. And over time, if you're handling them and stuff, and they get scratches and stuff, it just ends up being not looking good. So you have to kind of keep them in these like plastic sleeves, just not slide them around, and just like they're not baseball cards and like these like top loaders, right? Um, those things have to be kind of set aside and just uh, touched to a bare minimum. So, what is that worth though? That the value of that protection. And then I guess at the end of the day, kind of having somebody who's paid to grade books, some company that's put together a grading system based off, you know, quote unquote experts. Um, Now, if CGC applied their quote unquote standards to every book, meaning they have to spend the time to do the grading and doing all that, right? If they actually did that, if they put the time and effort, really gave you a thoughtful process in that, because they have the videos, like you got what's his face, Matt Nelson, the president of CGC, is like doing this with the like turning with the gloves on, and like, feeling the book out, and like, there's a issue here. Oh, there's a micro, there's a little micro issue there. Like if they're doing that for every book, then yeah, I would put a lot of value in that service, put a lot of value in that system. But there's no transparency into how they're grading your books. They're basically like, they're not even scanning them. Can you believe that? They're not even scanning your books. They're basically like, it's like a production line. Like, come in, all right, look, kind of flip through the book, count the pages, boom, all right, on to the next one. The less time you spend grading, the more books you can get through, the less people you have to hire, blah blah blah. So they market it as this like, well, sort of intention type of thing. But then you look at the results, you know, you can imagine what that warehouse, that logistics looks like. Like there's just books stacked everywhere, and they're just, here's an invoice number, or I should say, here's a PO, here's the book stats, just make sure they match. And you're probably just really getting a guy just like doing what I'm doing, right? And, you know, I'm sure it's a little bit more detailed than what I'm doing, but my point is they're not spending a crap load of time on your books. You're not getting the Matt Nelson kind of like, the gold service standard. You're getting just somebody who's uh, been trained on a process for them to follow the process and not mess up the paperwork. Definitely don't damage the books, but grade it, grade it the best they can. And that system is flawed, as we can see. A lot of the grades that come out of that system are questionable at best. Some of the errors are just so blatantly like obvious. It raises the question of like, are you really paying for what CGC is marketing as the value in it? And if you can't make that determination, then you shouldn't be paying that much. To be honest, like $40 to get a book encased in plastic with a paper printed label on it seems rather ridiculous. But a big part of the hobby and the market is to have sort of elevated pricing for the higher grades on books, right? nine eighths, nine nines, even for the most part nine sixes. Right? If you got a nine six, it's just going to elevate um, the sort of agreed upon market value of the book. Like if everybody's going based off like book pricing, based off what collectors and the market are sharing, what the value of certain books over others. Um, really the market is establishing just sort of a generic kind of guesstimate on pricing, and the market determines, well, that seems fair, that seems a little high, or that's too low, and it adjusts, but it's all based on like book pricing at the end of the day, talking to a lot of dealers, what things are selling for, talking to a lot of buyers, what their, you know, and sales data, that's a part of it. But sales data is so misleading in this social media age. People are just, they hear a price or they see something sell and they think that's the new floor, um, without really like, I mean, they are um, taking too much stock in, they're getting influenced is kind of what I'm trying to say. They're being influenced on what a price is versus what you should really determine the value to be. And again, book value, there's going to establish sort of a baseline that you should go by. You should not be going by some of these like FMV, FOMO type uh, numbers that are coming out on the internet on certain media channels. No, that's not the real price. That's um, and even auctions. Like I've always had an issue. Like why aren't buyers on auctions transparent? Who's to say like executives at Marvel aren't bidding on these Marvel books just to drive up sales of their current books, right? You know, like, and so when there's no transparency on who's buying these books, you should really take those prices with a grain of salt. Like, are they true collectors or are they just like dumb investors trying to pump? Like it's kind of like the stock market. Like there's this perceived value versus the actual financial data. If you're basing the price off financial data, you got there's a price per earnings, like right, and oftentimes the price should fluctuate it around that financial data. But then you have, you know, people looking into the future and like determining the future value of the stock, and then it drives it. No, don't go that route, especially with comic books. And you see a lot of people do that with. But I think I've even done that to a certain degree. I think I've just been like, oh, this book is definitely just like it's never going to go down. It's like it's one of the it's a key book. It's a classic book. This is just really underpriced. I think I've said that on several occasions, and I apologize. I kind of fall into that trap myself. But yeah, I think the days of paying these exorbitant prices for CGC is over. At least I never buy slabs, so it never impacted me or affected me to begin with. But I have purchased slabs. I've also considered buying graded books and kind of buying into what that the FMV of that graded book value is. On several occasions, never really pulled the trigger on any of those, but I've followed auctions and followed the pricing and kind of went through that whole should I shouldn't I kind of debate. And really only one book, the Killing Joke book, The Sign 96. When I got that for 200, I thought that was undervalued. Uh, But at the same time, that book fell in price, so like I thought it was undervalued, but the book itself is going down in value. So we'll just have to see. But that is an iconic book. I just think there's a lot of copies of the book. Even the first printings, there's a lot of first printing copies of that book because it was one of the best selling books when it came out. So that being said, yeah, um, yeah, I just don't look at these books as investments. That's probably the best way to, I think, approach. I think certain books you can definitely like pedigree books, like Action One, some of the Golden Age, where it really, you're you are dealing with um, supply issues. There are just not a lot of books from the Golden Age that survived, and especially like Superman Golden Age books. Those are highly sought after. Just there's just not too many available, um, and of course, a lot of the what we call the early pulp, right? The pulp artwork from magazines before they were really comic books. The pulp illustration from the 30s, the 20s and 30s, right? Um, those are super rare and super highly valued. So, like if we're talking about like those early comic books, some of the rare ones by the early pioneers artists that that have high collecting value, those are obviously high valued books and their investments. And those books are the ones where you don't want to fall into like a FOMO bug because you can buy something and then, you know, have overpaid for it. So you're kind of playing a high. Obviously, you're never going to sell it for what you bought it for, but below what you bought it for, unless you're, you know, filing for bankruptcy or just having issues with your finances. But if you've spent like $100,000 on a book, you're not going to sell it for 90, 80 unless you absolutely have to, right? So you in those instances, yeah, you buy a book, a sale like that really does create sort of a new bar. But on a book like this where someone paid $100 for it, that $100 is not a new bar by any means. So that's my point. Like there's investment grade books, and then there's stuff you pick up at your LCS that there's like a gajillion copies of. And then I've never been an investment grade collector. You guys watch my channel, I spend absolutely as least as I can, as little as I can um, on my collection. Some of these older ones that like that one there, that I picked up as a wall book back in the day for like $20. That's just been with me. Others I got like that Marvel Age. I overpaid for that book. I paid $200 for it, thinking it was a higher grade book in newsstand. Came back from CGC a 9.0. I thought it was at least going to come back like a 9.4. Came back a 9.0. So you know, um, part of it's my fault. I bought something online thinking it was a higher grade than it actually was, and then submitting to CGC, thinking I could make some kind of profit on it. But no, I ended up overpaying for a raw book that came back. Pretty much, I mean, I paid what I paid. It was a $200 book, so I paid what it was eventually going to be worth. A 9.0 copy is like a $200 book. But I added $40 in terms of the service. So I actually paid $240 just to get it slabbed and sent back to me verifying it's a $200 book. right? So, um, that was a mistake. Now, at the end of the day, I paid $40 more than I should have. Um, if I was doing that consistently, like on every transaction I made, then I probably should not be in this hobby. But those kind of instances are few and far between. I don't think. I mean, me overpaying for a book is, I think, rare. There are times when I will pay at what the book value is, and that's there are, there are, you know, there are numerous instances of where that's happened, and um, ultimately, it's debatable. I mean, is book price an arbitrary price? Does it really have any value at the end of the day? And when you look at the health of the comic book market, obviously over the past 3, 4 years, very healthy. People got back into collecting like myself during the pandemic. Um, People were just wanting to do something with their time, right? Like they're at home, they're researching stuff to get into, and a lot of people, got into video games and comic books during the pandemic. Just some things that naturally happened. So when it's the comic book industry is very healthy, like it was the past 3, 4 years, you're gonna see people, you know, kind of buy into the that book value, kind of maybe see prices elevate and buy into that. Oh, these prices are going up, and then obviously you had an up and then you have a down. The question is, a lot of the prices that you saw during the pandemic, are those legit, or are they elevated? And then when the state of the comic book industry is declining, the health of the comic book industry is declining, which I think is what you're seeing now. You're seeing kind of like people like me, kind of like spending less on comic books, kind of stepping back. Uh, you know, yeah, you just see like books dropping in prices. You just see a lot of the FOMO stuff that drove interest in buying into these books that um, are hot one week and then are not. Like you go through a few cycles of that. You have a bunch of collectors with worthless books that they get overpaid for. So again, that when that consistently happens in the hobby, people jump ship from the hobby. They don't want to do it anymore because it's causing them stress, and they're not having fun with it. It's not an investment. The hobby should never be advertised as an investment. Sports cards as well, like sports cards, people who just dump thousands into like trying to pull like a one-on-one on one of these, like, are just like, I just look at that and I just think like, man, I did that when I was in high school and it hasn't changed, but those cards are not worth anything. They're not worth anything. I think you can say the same about comic books, but at least comic books are like, they're not a piece of cardboard. This is it's a book. It's a book with a printing volume, like a first, it's run through a press like a book, and you have a certain volume, and that's it. Cards don't have that. Cards, like, you know, like who's to say how many cards is like the more you print, you can just kind of keep them in a warehouse and just like, they're not really transparent with those with runs, or that I'm sure there's like a million produced on any given set, except some of the inserts, I guess. But the inserts are the ones people go after. But how many like 2,500 print? Like if something's printed to like let's say 2,500 copies, of a player in a certain set, how many sets of those like same ratio things are there? I'm gonna get probably up. You're gonna get up there. So I mean, again, like what makes like a Fleer worth more than like a Skybox? It's just these things like, oh yeah, everybody kind of hones in on certain cards or certain sets, and that's what garners the higher value. Well, you know, that's that's the hobby. That's the hobby, and um, I think just cards, a little that data and that kind of pricing and everything is just it's a little bit more manipulable than comic books are. Just think paying thousands for a piece of cardboard versus like $20 for a book like this is um, they're apples and oranges. All right. Are Marvel cards uh okay, so you're saying yeah, okay. Cards in the night, but for fun, not as yeah. So Miss So you get it, right? I totally see the collectability in comic book cards. And I really had to because that I thought that was gonna be a rabbit hole I would fall down. Like if I just started collecting comic book cards, like kind of merging my love of sports cards, my love of comic books. Here's a hobby that has both, and you have all this cool artwork just in the palm of your hand and the grip of your fingers, right? That's just like it almost was like um, potentially a seriously addictive thing that could have fallen into. But I've steered clear of comic book cards because I keep reminding myself like you've got you've got the real like well you got a better version of the artwork here. Although some of those Marvel cards are they're specific artwork to that card set, so you can't. It's like there's no comic book equivalent. It's artwork for the card set. So in those instances, you're just like ah. But so I mean, I've had to draw a fine line and be like, look, you're collecting the books. That's it. Don't try to. There's no like. There's no middle ground for justifying that the comic cards are the same as the books. So I've just stayed clear of but I do see, you know, the temptation there. And then, again, I think it would be fun. I think collecting cards, don't get me wrong, collecting cards is fun when you keep it fun. But when you try to make it like some kind of money maker, like it's a lottery and you just have to buy all these tickets and you're gunning for some kind of big payoff at the end of the day. No, so many factors that have to go into um, you pulling a like an Otani card, 101 Otani card. I would love to pull a 101 Otani card, but what you see on social media and guys doing it, that's the exception there rather than the rule. And they'll probably open up tons of boxes just to pull something they could put on their channel, which is rather ridiculous, I think. All right. So we've gotten through the Jim Lee books. We've gotten through. I'm going to try to give you a good mix on the grade alongs. We're going to do a couple books from my filing cabinet, kind of this kind of this kind of setup. No clear backing board, um, and just do kind of like a top view front cover type grading job. And then we're going to do Jim Lee books from my little short box of stuff. And these have the clear backing board. So we're going to do a little bit more thorough grading on this kind of setup. So give you sample a couple of these, sample a couple of books from my filing cabinet. And then, of course, we end with, at least like 2 copies from my slab books. And okay, cool. Hope you're making something delicious. I definitely enjoy making late night snacks. Uh, I did share some of my instant ramen recipes as shorts this summer. I don't know what prompted me to do that. I don't. I'm not. I don't want to give off the impression that I just eat instant ramen all the time. I do. I enjoy eating, and nothing to. I think that's the Korean part in me. Koreans love instant ramen, and I should say Koreans and Japanese people love instant ramen, and it's just one of those things. It's quick, cheap, easy. So if you just you know wanting to get something in your tummy, not a lot of headache, it's a solution. But I do appreciate like good food outside of instant ramen. So um, all right, yeah, all right. So we're gonna grade these two books here. We're gonna start with this one. This one. I picked this one up for. I'm trying to remember the price. I want to say I picked this one up for $10. I think $10 is what I picked it up for, and that's first appearance of Bane. Now, first off, I'm going to show you the back cover here. The back cover here is flawless. Okay, absolutely like near mint flawless. I'll even give you a close-up view, sharp corners, just absolutely nothing wrong with it. And I'm going to give you a close-up of the spine. This is a square-bound book. As you can see, clean, square-bound spine. Okay, this is a what? 64-page special. So I don't know if you can see the spine. There's a good angle there on the spine. You can see the color though. So I'm just gonna, there we go. There's a good corner. Just absolutely clean. Nothing, no funny business going on with this spine. It's clean. Okay. So why were we able to pick this up for $10? The book has, so basically what happened to this book was it was sitting in a bag and board probably for a long time. And sometimes the bag, when you expose it to like kind of temperature extremes, right? Especially in like a hot environment, the bag will the air in the bag will kind of expand, and the plastic bag itself will warp, right? It'll warp and it'll change its shape, kind of like the way paper does when there are temperature fluctuations. But in this instance, the temperature fluctuations happened on the bag, and the bag warped. And I think what it created was it just created this like iron-on effect on the bag, right? Where the heat of the book and the bag, you got a little issue where the plastic maybe stuck to the very like surface area of the bag. Nothing like it's not like glue or anything. It's just like there was a little bit of adhesion there just from heat exposure or whatever. Now this is my theory. I can't, but this is what would cause this kind of damage. So all right, so you've got a book now kind of stuck to the surface of the bag, or the bag stuck to the surface of the book, and now you have somebody kind of taking the book out, or the bag kind of just um, sticking to the cover and then just subtly um, removing some of the surface. And the reason I think that it was heat is gonna again the bag is gonna warp, and those lines here, those are kind of like what you would see on a bag that's starting to warp, right? You just start to see these like kind of it kind of like fold in on itself with the bag. So you have that sticky bag kind of change shape, right? Where it's kind of folding in, and then somebody kind of just took it out of the bag, and parts of the cover, just the color on that, not the paper, the ink on that just stuck to the bag, and it kind of came off, or yeah, it detached from the ink detached from parts of the book. So you've got these like essentially like lines from the bag where the ink again came off, and it's like evident all across. It's like it's not in just one area, it's just pretty much throughout the book. You got it up here, white lines up here, you got white lines, speckles here, kind of white lines all across. You can see the white lines there, right? That's all that ink just coming off the bag. Now, having said all that, I still think this book looks great. It doesn't really like it works with the artwork, if you ask me, right? It just somehow doesn't detract from the cover. Now, some of you might disagree. Some might be like, "Man, that is like damage. That's just damage that you don't want to see on a book." But for me, the fact that they're white lines and they're just kind of like staticky type lines, like it's like like a staticky image. Um, I mean, it just for me it works. So again, obviously we got a low grade book here. This is if it was in near mint condition, this is $100 book, but um, I don't know. I feel like this is still a high grade book. Like, what does that kind of that ink, separation of the ink, with the in terms of that design, the lines, what is that demerit actually worth? I think depending on who you talk to, it's going to vary. But again, if you ask a collector like me, I don't think it detracts all that much from the book. Now, is it a major issue? Yeah. So if you're going to talk about, you're going to count each line as a major issue on the book, that would mean this is a zero grade book where you're going to look at the overall effect, that separation, the overall um, cause and effect of that. How how much are you going to count that toward the book in terms of the grade? Um, and if you were to ask me, I would say it's obviously a major flaw. So I would definitely drop it by like 2.5 grades, right? For a major flaw like that, 2.5 grades. So I put this in a 7.5. Now, um, some of you might drop it even more. Actually, I might even go as far as to say it's like a 7.0. Okay, but obviously, everyone's going to have a different opinion on how much it should go down. I think the more sort of stricklers to like strict, I shouldn't say sticklers to grading are maybe going to give it more of a drop. So I think it could be anywhere from a 5 to a 7, and I'm going to lean on it being a 7 because it's such a. I mean, everything else is just so clean on this book. Really, that kind of surface damage when it's not even that doesn't have that deleterious of an effect on the you know appearance of the book. Um, yeah, and again, I would lean. I think giving this a mid grade, like a 5.0, is too harsh, given what that is. But I'm glad the LCS that sold this to me thought it was, that damage was more impactful on the pricing than it should have been. So again, paid $10 for that book. I paid 65 cents for this book, cover price when it came out. Got this book when it came out. Black Spidey was all the rage, and this is just like, you see this cover. This is my original copy of the book. Again, I got this at my LCS, paid 65 cents for it, came home with it, and I read it once, I think, and then I just kept it in the bag and board, well preserved. And it's, again, I had a handful of books that kind of survived, and they're all high grade books. That one came back in '94. My New Mutants '98. All the books that were in that collection came back in '96. This one is a 9.8. This is a 9.8. First of all, I'll just show you the back. You can just gaze at the back. It's just flawless back. And then spine here, just nary a spine tick. Actually, am I seeing things here? No, it's weird. It's like I see spine ticks. I think I see spine ticks when I look at my computer screen, but those are not spine ticks. They're just clouds. They're just clouds in the artwork. Okay. It's absolutely clean. I'll just go slow so you can see how incredibly flawless that is. Okay. Sharp corners. That is a 9.8. And this is the temptation with like wanting to get it slabbed and all that, because you think, oh, it's a 9.8, so yeah, this is definitely a 9.8 copy of this is going to be command like $300, $400, maybe even higher and all that. But for me, all I really care about is preserving the condition and keeping this in my collection forever. Because this is just, again, one of the few books that I actually went out and got. Actually, I didn't get this when it came out. I got this as a wall book, now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, and I might have paid, I think it was a wall book, and I might have paid like $10 for it. But either way, it was part of my original collection. Didn't pick it up when it came out, but I picked it up as like a wall book. And I think it was like $5 or $10 when I picked it up. So still awesome piece of my collection here. Yeah, and it's flawless. I'm telling you, it's a flawless copy there. Get it real close here. Show the top. Just go slow. Such a sexy book here. Black suit Spidey with the black mask. Direct edition logo. And that is it. That's it for the grading part. We graded a lot of books today. That's pretty cool. All right. The last thing is I've got a package ready to go out, because I basically told you that I was in the process of trading a book. I'm in the process of trading a book with Craven Hunts Comics. He's an online seller. Go check him out. He's got good stuff, great prices, very knowledgeable and trustworthy, and a good guy. Knows how to pack books. Think his shipping is reasonable, and again, he's giving you some great. He's always transparent about the grade, and he prices things just a little below in terms of what the grade and the book value would command, right? So he's giving you a good deal, and you can probably negotiate and get a better deal. But anyway, um, he posted a book recently, and I said, "Are you down? Would you consider a trade?" I didn't have money to buy that book outright, but it was a book I wanted, and he had a great price. So I said, "Would you be willing to trade?" And he said, "Yes, but I want to trade something where I get a big book, one big book in return for several books of mine." And I get it. Like, you want to purge and add value. Totally get it. And I was willing to do it. I was like, I have some big books. I sent him some ones and I told him, just let me know what you want, and we'll try to kind of balance the value, like whatever the value of my book is. I'll look at what you have available, and I'll pick and choose till we kind of match the value of the trade. And we're able to kind of come to terms last night over text, and so it's a deal. We have a deal, and I'm just going to share with you what I am sending to him, which is, I want to say it's like a near mint minus VF plus grade book of Strange Academy #1. And I picked this one up at half price books for $2.50. Okay. I am known to pick up a book like this from half price books from time to time. Paid $2.50 for this book, and it's $100 book. So he wanted this one. I know he sold the 9.8 of this recently. I don't know why he's wanting this. I think maybe he just wants to flip it, or maybe he regretted selling his copy of Strange Academy, whatever the reason. I sent him another Strange Academy too, like the variant cover, way, way, way back in the day in a trade. At least I think it was him. But anyway, I gave him a selection of books. This is the one he wanted, so I I don't really have any terrible um, terrible you know affection, or what I should say, affinity toward this book. I don't have like a strong affinity toward this book, so I was willing to trade it. And what we agreed upon, what I am getting in return for this book, will be a wait and see. So we're gonna have to wait and see. Um, Craven Hunts Comics said he's gonna ship his out on. He can't ship the books out until Tuesday. So I said, okay, I'll ship mine out. We'll coordinate to ship out on the same day. And he lives in. Well, I'm not going to share where he lives, but he lives on the western coast of the United States. So once it ships out, I don't imagine it taking a prolonged period of time before I have it. So assuming it ships out Tuesday, I should have it by Thursday or Friday, which is perfect because then we unbox trade this coming Friday, part of the Great Along. And you can see, again, I'm getting what? 1, 2, 3, 8. I'm getting 8 books in return for this one. 8 books for one. And yeah, I'm just really I'm excited because I think a couple of those books are like well, I know one is definitely a core PC book. Another one is just a really key book. Um, actually, they're all really key books that are from my collecting era. And then you have some other artist type books that he didn't value, but I definitely would have picked them up at the LCS or whatever. Um, so yeah, I think we are both kind of getting. Probably going to throw in a dish, a couple. I know he doesn't want more books. I think he's trying to purge his collection, but I just feel like you know I want him to be happy. So I don't want him to look back and be like, oh man, I should have traded all those books for this one. I do want to like just kind of throw in a few books that I think he would like. Because it's just a waste of this to have just be sending one book in a mailer. Might as well send a couple books that hopefully he'll like. Um, I know he's kind of into like the modern type books, and so I'll just send him some modern keys that hopefully he'll really enjoy, and that's what we'll do. And if he doesn't like them, he can just throw them away or whatever. But definitely I want to thank him for such a great, in my opinion, a great deal, and hopefully in his opinion, it's a great deal too as time progresses. Um, yeah, I've never been in a situation where I've done a community trade where I feel like I gave up something I wanted to keep. There's probably one instance, and that is I traded an Adam Hughes, Catwoman, the booking photo, the police booking where she's holding up you know, the police booking uh, booking details, uh, taking the police photo. Um, that one, if I can get another copy, I'm not that I would pay what it's worth for that copy, but if I can get another copy like the way I bought that one, I would. I got that for half a cover, like $1 something. And I did get good value out of it in the trade, but that's a great cover. That's just a great cover. And I recognized its value and I just thought, yeah, this is great. It did have a couple issues, like it wasn't a perfect like high grade copy. It was probably like in the 8.5 range. But yeah, I mean, I do run into that book um, here and there, and I get reminders. Oh, this is Adam Hughes. It's this iconic cover and all that. And yeah, I think if I could get any of my traded books back, that's something I'd probably target to possibly get back. I wouldn't mind seeing that back in the collection, to be honest. But that was that was a part of a multi-book trade. So I did get everything I wanted in terms of the book. I have to go back and watch that video, but I just remember being overall like, yeah, we gave up a book that we wanted to keep, and we got all this. Like a lot of it was Jimmy stuff, so got all this in return. So can't feel too bad about it. But again, if you were to, I guess, pinpoint, I don't generally regret trades. I think, in my mind, make out better. Um, and I still think that, even with that Catwoman book, I still think I made out better in that trade. But if there's a book that, we could keep versus trading it away, that would be the one book that I wish I had kept because I definitely do want to pick it up. Like, again, if we can pick it up cheap, half cover is hard to beat. But if we can pick it up in like a bargain bin somewhere, even if it's low grade, just pick up that cover somewhere. That'd be great because that is a nice book. All right, so yeah, we talked about the trade. We did grading. We unboxed the book I got today, which I'm going to show off again. Oh yeah, Walt Simonson, 25th anniversary Marvel cover here of the Mighty Thor, and that it's signed by none other than Walt Simonson from Heroes Con 2012, Charlotte, North Carolina. Love it, love it, love it. All right, that does it for me, otakus. Have a great, Miss So. Hopefully you're enjoying whatever snack you made. And hopefully it's not instant ramen, but something delicious. And thanks for hanging out and uh, hanging out with me and going over these important things: the grading of comic books, the the, the discussion of the hobby, pop culture related stuff, things that are just thoughts on various topics. But I'm just always happy to you know get jump on and share my books with you. So thanks for just humoring me and watching. And I guess we'll see you in the next one, which may be as early as tomorrow because I may do a grade along tomorrow. These are fun. But definitely, if we don't do anything tomorrow, we'll definitely see you when we get the trade results, which may be Thursday or Friday. All right. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.